just this once. Okay, you got me. But did you know Quake was not supposed to be a shooter? But before we talk about the hammer, look at what actually shipped. Speed, violence, true 3D, a rocket launcher, a shambler screaming in your face. This is the Quake everyone remembers. Now here's the strange part. This nightmare started as something completely different. A dark fantasy action game, a legendary warrior, a massive thunderhammer, close combat, medieval nightmares. Yeah, that version died fast. In June 1996, the world expected another Doom. A faster, bloodier evolution of the formula that had already conquered the globe. But inside id Software, John Romero had a completely different vision. He didn't just want another shooter. Early Quake was imagined as a darker, stranger fantasy action game. A brutal myth featuring a legendary warrior named Quake, wielding a massive hammer, where combat was up close and personal. Trying to build that dream on a mid-90s Pentium processor was a nightmare. For months, the team at id Software chased a ghost. The hammer never struck. Instead, the sheer technical pressure fractured the project. Quake wasn't born from a clean master plan. It was born from the ashes of a broken concept, forced back into the familiar corridors of a first-person shooter just to survive. But while Romero dreamed of dark fantasy, John Carmack was fighting a brutal war against mathematics. To create a true 3D world, Carmack had to push real-time rendering into territory that honestly felt like digital black magic. Doom had used clever 2.5D illusions. Quake moved beyond them. Binary space partitioning, true polygonal spaces, real verticality, light maps. A shadow wasn't just a darker texture painted on the floor anymore. It was baked into the world through calculated light. Initially, Quake pushed CPUs to their absolute melting point with pure software rendering. But when GLQuake arrived shortly after, it became one of those terrifying moments when PC gamers looked at their machines and collectively realized, oh no, I need new hardware again. It helped ignite the 3D accelerator boom, and our wallets have been weeping ever since. The pixels were officially dead, the polygons had arrived. But Quake is often remembered for its speed. The truth is, its soul is defined by its silence. When id Software brought in Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails, they didn't ask for a catchy soundtrack. They asked for a sonic nightmare. Reznor didn't write songs. He built an architecture of anxiety. The metallic clank of a lift, the guttural grunt of a shambler, the low industrial hum of the void. It created a sensory weight that Doom simply never had. If you look closely at the ammo boxes for the nail gun, you'll see the NIN logo stamped right on the side, a permanent scar of this unholy alliance. Reznor turned a technical showcase into a masterpiece of dark ambient horror. It wasn't just a game anymore, it was a place you survived. Now fast forward to multiplayer. In 1996, the internet was a lawless, lagging wasteland. If you've ever complained about a 20 millisecond ping drop, try playing Deathmatch on a 28.8K dial-up modem while praying nobody picks up the phone. It didn't magically fix dial-up, nothing fixed dial-up, but QuakeWorld made online deathmatch feel possible. Carmack rewrote the rules of networking with client-side prediction, making movement feel responsive even when the internet absolutely wasn't. Without QuakeWorld, the road to Counter-Strike, arena shooters, and modern online FPS would have looked very different. The foundation of competitive online shooters was laid right there, in the sweat, crunch, and empty pizza boxes of id Software. And that competitive fire reached its absolute peak in 1997 at the Red Annihilation tournament. The stakes weren't just a plastic trophy, not a novelty check, not a legendary skin. John Carmack put his own personal car on the line, an actual physical cherry red 1987 Ferrari 328 GTS. When Dennis Thresh Fong walked away with those keys, the world realized gaming was no longer just a basement hobby. It was skill, it was competition, it was a profession. Thresh didn't just win a car, he proved that in the digital frontier, absolute mastery was the ultimate currency. But every revolution leaves a body count. By the time Quake shipped, the tension between Carmack's ruthless technical discipline and Romero's wild creative flair had reached its breaking point. Romero left shortly after, and one of the most important partnerships in PC gaming history was over. 30 years later, we return to these dark, Lovecraftian corridors in glorious 4K, running on hardware they could only dream of. For clarity, most of the footage here is captured in Quake Enhanced, because YouTube and 320 by 200 darkness are not exactly best friends. But underneath the cleaner image, the same old monster is still breathing. We see the light maps, we hear the industrial screams, we feel the weight of every jump. Quake wasn't just a game. It was the moment shooters stopped pretending to be 3D and became something else entirely. 3 decades later, the void is still calling. And before we go, huge thanks for all the feedback on the Diablo video. I read the comments and I'm taking them seriously. We're tuning the formula with more real gameplay, more source material, and more careful visual reconstruction, because these games deserve to feel authentic to the era we grew up with. If that sounds like your kind of rabbit hole, stick around. If you've ever accidentally rocket jumped yourself directly into a ceiling, or if you just appreciate the dark arts of 90s coding, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. Stay retro.